students in our community by continuing to implement and expand innovative programs at Upper Bucks. So we received a workforce development STEM grant of $63,000, and we're going to be running 2 summer camps, STEM camps for elementary students and middle school students. We're in the process of putting those together right now. So when the dates come out, I'll be sending a flyer out to the 3 sending districts. So it's going to be sometime the end of June and probably the second week of July. It'll be a 4-day camp. We'll have, I have volunteers. My teachers are stepping up. We're going to have a lot of STEM activities, electromechanical projects, carpentry projects, baking projects, cooking projects. We're working on that now, so I'm hoping to finalize that within the next week or so. The other adventure that we started a few months ago, is our food truck initiative. Sad to say that Bethlehem Aerial Tech will be the first food truck, and that kind of hurts me because they stole my idea. The idea originated at my old school 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. We did a presentation. That was my downfall. We did a presentation at a conference, and he stole that idea. I was with the director last Friday at a director's meeting, and I said, Adam, what's going on here? Because now he's going to have rolling out. He's coming from Canada. The beauty of it is, though, he paid twice as much as what I paid. So we're going to be all right. But the food truck initiative, that's going to be a great marketing tool for my students, for my 3 districts. My culinary students, my baking students are going to be preparing the food. So if you haven't come up into the Upper Bucks County Technical School for lunch, I invite you to come over and try one of our lunches. I invite you to come and buy a pie or a cake, cupcakes, cookies. I don't eat that stuff, but they tell me it's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So you're more than welcome to come up there. Look on our website, and it tells you the dates when they're open and what they are serving for the day or for the week. So I encourage you to come up and taste some of the cuisine that we'll be using on our truck. My culinary or my electromechanical program will be wiring it up. They'll be putting the lights in, they'll be putting sound system in, they'll be tracking so you can follow us where we are, on a daily basis. I received a SLIP grant, again, of probably about $33,000 to help pay or supplement 25 to 30 students to work over the summer of a $600 stipend. So it's all starting to come together. Right now I collected around $21,000 worth of sponsorships. I have $12,000 in my hand, and I have IOUs in the other hand. So we're chasing at that, but for a total of $21,000. So the total cost of the truck is $40,000. Did not pay 1 cent of taxpayer money, not 1 cent. So that's the beauty of this vehicle. And when we go out there, I have to talk to our solicitor and Gail, and our kids came up with a great slogan, cuisine for a cause. I have to make sure it's not patented. So once I get through that and we'll patent it ourselves, then they want to at least donate a percentage of our proceeds to a worthy cause, such as breast cancer awareness, Toys for Tots. We're going to have themed menus throughout the year. So if we're, in Penridge for a fall, whatever, we'll have, what do they have in the fall? Soups. We'll have pumpkins. We'll have soups. We'll have, anything and everything. So I have 3 of my chefs are working on menus. We have to come up with a signature dish or a signature, something that is going to take us apart from everybody else. And from what I understand, Heck noodles, I don't know if anybody have heard of those things. They said they're pretty good. See, I don't eat that kind of stuff, but we're going to have you know, fresh cut French fries. We're gonna have cheesesteaks, hamburgers, you know, that kind of stuff. But there's gonna be something special every time we get out there. And I know that the setting districts, I've spoken with the principals and the superintendents, and I have them sending me a schedule when they want me to be at their facilities or at functions throughout the communities. I'm working with the chamber president, Mrs. Bodner. She's fantastic. She's going to be booking us and our students. So the opportunity for our students are going to be tremendous. They're going to come up with a business plan. They're going to come up with the menus. They're going to take care of the money. Well, when I got the money, they're going to give me the money. I'm going to give the money to Gail because she's the gatekeeper there. But I think it's going to be a great opportunity for our kids and for the communities. We're going to provide cost-effective instructional programs that lead to recognized certificate post-secondary education. I'm going to raise the bar on all of my programs. I look at our certifications. We are offering 90 some certifications out of 21 programs. So we're going to increase that certification to put a little bit more, I'd say, meat in it. I'd like to see certifications that are not just recognized in the state, but in the country itself. Every one of our trades, our kids are coming in to learn a trade. They can take it anywhere in the country. Of course, we want them to stay in our districts. But we know that some of them move out, but they're going to be able to take those into New Jersey, or they're going to be able to take them to Maryland, Washington. But those certificates that they're going to receive are going to be able to follow them, and it's going to mean something when they graduate. We're going to bolster the school governance by establishing a transparent, trusting, collaborative relationship. When I first came on board in July, I'm a team type of person. I'm very competitive. Not one person can do it all. And as to run a school, you need a team of people to do that. And we are forming a relationship in the school right now of trust and working with each other. I'm forming relationships with our business managers from the setting districts. We form relationships with our superintendents. So that's my goal, to make sure that we're all working together, because your students are my students. And I want to take care of your students, because when they come to my building, they're all my students. And the first day of school, I told them, listen, there's 720 students in here, you're all my kids. So I want to make sure that you are walking out of here with the best education possible. But you have to be able to, or you have to want to get or receive the education that my staff is giving you. So we're working on that. I think it's going to blossom. Provide competency-based and individualized curriculum based on valid occupational analysis. And so now, the Upper Bucks for the last couple of years have not had a schedule, so I put a schedule together of how we're going to be working on, reforming our budget from now until whenever. We're going to be sitting down with the business managers, kind of something like I had at my old school, to make sure that we're in step, that we're in line with the sending district. So when we come up with our numbers, we can come back to your business manager and to your schools and be able to, infiltrate our numbers in with your numbers, and you guys are going to say, yay, we vote, we won, we want it, let's do it. So then we start off with our general fund for 2019-20 budget, and this is where Gail would step in. So we have general fund of $10,358,000, adult evening courses, and then you got the total is $11,643,000. I don't know if you want me to read through all of those. So 2019-20 operating support, the budget of 2020, the increases and decreases for each one of the districts. And here you are, Penridge Green in the middle, operating support for actuals of 18 and 19. And then our total revenues for the year would be $10,358,000.
I'm sorry, can you go back?
I can zoom in.
Thank you. No, that's good. I'm sorry. I just wanted to see that last line.
Okay. revenue budget is continued. I don't know what paperwork you.
No.
The expenditure.
We'll go through the budget document, and review this more detail.
Right. So the expenditure budget without debt, and there's an expenditure budget with including the debt, and then your contributions are in there. Member district contribution calculation, total operating revenue needed without debt, and then the net amount due from the school districts without debt, $6,728,000. Here we are with calculation, the ADM percent of the operating budget. Pembridge is at 37.44%. This is their 5-year average. Right now, 2018-19, we don't have the actual numbers until June. We thought about coming up with maybe a date. We talked about it with business managers and ourselves. We sat down. We're trying to figure out if we should come up with a date prior to June to get more of an actual number. So as you see, we're just using what we had previous year.
And so I don't know if everybody understands the way that the budget is determined, but it's a 5-year rolling average, so that it's not as drastic of a change from one year to another. So then each year, and one year falls off and the next year joins into that 5-year average. And it's based on the average, it's based on the enrollment from each sending district for each of those 5 years that you're averaging together, and you're paying the percentage for what percentage of the students at that school are the students that you're sending from your district. So that's where this 5-year average comes from.
Right. And you see your school, back in 14-15, the average was 450 students, and then now you're up to 266. I believe that number is a little bit higher right now. When we get that average in June, that's going to be a higher number. I know Dr. Bolton. I think he's a competitive guy as well, but him and Dr. Harner are going at it because they want to be the top dog in the block. So,
I can share one number that is wonderful news, and I'm sorry, don't take little Mr. Lebowski's. We were looking at requests, and as of right now, we have more than 300 requests for tech school for next year. So we're at 304.
Wow.
Which is plus 26 from this same time last year. Because it always settles a little, but some kids change their mind or don't get into the programs. And so we were at 278 last year, and it ended up at about 266, although I do think it's a little higher than that.
Yeah.
But we're at 304 requests right now. So that is just wonderful news in terms of students understanding the importance and the wonderful programs that we offer at the Upper Bucks Tech School. So that's wonderful news, and I'm hoping that will continue to grow. Because we are going to be Quakertown within the next 3 years.
I'm going to give it 2 years, but keep that number under your hat, because when Dr. Harner hears it, then he's going to go out and try to. So we're going to have a war here pretty soon, but it's a good type of war, and that's attributed to your superintendents, and the public realizing how important vocational education is. It's a STEM. We're STEM. We're STEM, through and through. I've gone out to Quakertown, made presentations. I wasn't invited at Pembridge, no, I'm only kidding, to the 8th graders, and I, tell them the same thing. You can do both. You can go and learn a trade and learn, something valuable, and still go to college. You can do both. If you learn with, if you learn how to work with your hands, you'll never go hungry. And And you can see the students that are coming in. They're enthusiastic. We're gonna keep raising that bar, and we're gonna have a place for every one of our students that walk into our building. So here we are with our, the average ADN, the market value, Quakertown or Pembridge, Quakertown, Palisades. the fund revenue budget. This is the new procedure that the business managers came up with. Yeah, would you walk us through this real quick?
Yeah, I think, can we perhaps look at revenue in a little more detail, and then we can segue into what this formula means. If you look at page 4 of your document, so it's the revenue budget. So page 4 and 5 go hand in hand. Page 5 has the specifics about the 5-year average that Mrs. Vance Clemens explained. You can see the actual ADMs for 15, 16, 17, and 18, and of course, we don't know what it will be in 19. And right now, we just use a projection, and we make it the same as the actual in 18. We're working on a new funding formula. We don't know where that's going to end, but one of the things we'll probably address is probably picking a specific date, maybe in October, so that, and using the ADM for that number so that we have an exact number as opposed to a projected number. So what happens with this 5-year average is that every year, one of the 3 schools ends up being the highest owing school. And of course, you have number 2 and number 3. And that changes year to year, depending on how many more students or fewer students a school has sent. Back when Act 1 was implemented, the board, because they felt that they, in answering to their taxpayers, were going to have to live with the Act 1 index, whatever that may be, they decided that our school would put a cap on any contributions from sending schools, so that the highest owing school of the 3 in any given year would be capped at the Act 1 index. So if, for example, Penridge was the highest school and owed 4%, but Act 1 was 2.1, we weren't going to ask any more than 2.1% increase of them, and we would have to backfill then in our revenue with fund balance. Over the last 12 years, give or take, we found that the sending school contributions were actually decreasing. The last 5 years, the funding formula has yielded a decrease in overall sending school contributions year over year. And so we're getting less and less money, and the board realized this is really not working and we're going to have to change our path. So they decided they wanted to redo the funding formula. It's going to be a really long process. We've met with the business managers a few times. Realized that we weren't going to get that done in time for this budget. We'll keep working on it, and probably for next year's budget we'll have something in place.
You mean for any funding?
A new funding formula.
So I guess my understanding is that everyone is comfortable with the funding formula the way that it is, and now we're paying, we're instead of capping it, we're paying what the district should be paying.
Well, and that's possible, except that we also heard objections to using fund balance. So the fact that we
Right,
have
so
to
the
budget
plan
that.
is to not be using fund balance.
Right, and we'll have to see how that plays out over time. We think eventually it's gonna sort of normalize and we won't need it, but this is the first year of the new, and it's a transition year. We don't really have a new formula in place. We're using the existing formula with a little twist, which is this. That's your question. So we're still using the calculations as we have been, the 5-year ADM average, but we agreed that because we budget, we have a lot of unknowns, and we don't, obviously, like any school district does, you don't know what's gonna come down the pike. For the coming year, we have 2 labor contracts and negotiations. We don't know where that's gonna play out. We have some program changes. We actually have a net add of 2 new teachers, a counselor and a special ed teacher. And this formula is something that we agreed upon, wherein we used the actual expenditures from the year 18. We had to use $121,000 of our fund balance. That came up to $7.9 million. Add the Act 1 index for the year we're in. We're projecting a total of 8.1 at the end of this year. We're adding again the Act 1 index for next year. And the 8.3 million is where the business managers were comfortable funding. They don't want to overfund and have us just put the money in our fund balance. But if we were to employ this formula again next year, and let's just say we spent 9 million and not 8.3 million, that would be added on as per line 2, because we overspent what was expected. And they're saying, okay, you're needing more than we're willing to fund, so now we're going to up our funding. However, we need to budget fund balance to fill that hole, and we're not going to ask the sending schools to fund that hole.
So, I have a different slide here that might help explain what we were doing before, because I think sometimes it's difficult to picture it.
It is here.
Um,
Let me see if I can close that.
Okay, so, I pulled this slide, this was a slide that you had had in one of your documents, and I thought that this was a great way to point out for board members who aren't as familiar with what was happening, because it really shows that when you're capping it, when you're capping an individual sending district's amount, right? So in this case, Palisades had the largest increase. So since you're capping theirs at 2.3%, their increase is $17,000. When you cap theirs so that you cap it proportionally throughout all 3 school districts, it ends up capping Penridge at 0.37, and it caps Quakertown. This is what would have happened this year under the old, the first gentleman's agreement. So the 1.48, it would have been a decrease for Quakertown. And so when you average that out, you would have basically, Quakertown would have gotten a decrease of $45,000. Our increase together combined would have been $25,000. You would have been looking at a $20,000 decrease in what the sending schools would have been sending to the tech school. So from last year, what we were sending to what we'd be sending this year would have been $20,000 less based on that old formula, because it's not like you're capping the whole sending amount by the Act 1 index. You're capping one specific district. And if you look, since this year, the highest sending district happens to be Palisades. Palisades, when you look at their enrollment, they're only less than 13%. So they're contributing less than 13%. So when you cap the lowest sending district, and then you're proportionally capping the whole, Quakertown sending is 50% and we're 38%, 2.3% of 13% obviously is the worst case scenario. And since Palisades happen to be the ones with the biggest increase this year, that's why you're seeing the biggest impact on that formula this year, because 2.3% of 13% is obviously a lot less than 50%. And so even though the budget was increasing and we're increasing spending, we wouldn't have been increasing the funding. And so the second gentleman's agreement 2 years ago basically said, well, we won't proportionally give the lowest district their decrease, and so they would, in a sense, be funding that extra money that the other, not proportionally to the other sending districts and not in line with the formula. So this year, that would have been Quakertown. So, but 2 years ago, it was us, and then, that second formula the second gentleman's agreement didn't continue after that year. So that's what's getting credited back to us this year, and now we're funding it up to, now we're looking to fund it. Oops. Now we're looking to fully, to pay what we should be paying in line with the Articles of Agreement. But to jump the whole entire way in 1 year. The idea was, if you're going up by the Act One index each year to what you're spending, in a few years, we will be up to what the actual amount is, rather than everybody jumping at one time. And so the idea is in a couple of years, we will be, we won't be using fund balance, but we can't make that whole, it wasn't feasible for all of the districts to make that huge jump in 1 year, and so this is what was agreed to, was to make the jump, to step it up over the next couple of years, but it's still in line with the funding formula and the Articles of Agreement, and it gets us up to where we're supposed to be and where we're fully funding the tech school, because we would have been obviously borrowing substantially more money from from fund balance to fund it with that other scenario. So I hope that helps
Yeah.
kind of give you a visual to understand it, because I know it's a complicated
And
topic.
And we're, of course, Pembridge will be receiving $136,442 back, and Palisades will be getting $24,000 back. Because of the last formula, so now it's, now it's, these are
Yeah, that we're all
really
in
close
that
to actual
a level
numbers.
playing field, and we're all making the jump to paying, so that we're
Right.
all paying, what's in line with the kids that we're sending, so. And,
Put the other one back up where you had it.
Yeah, that was it. Oh,
There we go.
okay. So, that's where we were. We do this already?
So do we have any questions? This is complicated, I know, but does anybody have questions about this, the whole revenue situation? Again, we're gonna continue to work on the funding formula. The board may not wanna change anything, that may end, but, the plan is at least to keep talking about it and then see where the board wants to go. This is a sort of transition year, and this is what we agreed to do to get us through, as Mrs. Vance Clement said, not have an enormous jump in 1 year. And we think it's gonna normalize and probably won't be fund balance for 2 years.
because I think the discussion was that the funding formula itself was always fair when you take away the agreements that were underfunding it. So once those go away, we're all funding it fairly between all of us, and the 5-year, the 5-year average at least minimizes how much of a jump each district would get for their increases, which we may be, based on the numbers we were just hearing, we may be the highest increase next year, so.
Yes.
Well, and whatever it is, I think we should pay it. That's my belief, is that if we're going to say that we are the 3 sending school districts to this tech school, and it's something we believe in, we should just pay what we owe. To do anything else doesn't make sense. So I hope that this is what is proposed.
Just got one of that bottom line, I'm sorry. I just have one question. Back there it says the amount to budget from the fund balance is $700,000 at bottom line. What is the current amount in the fund balance? Like what roughly? I know we don't.
The current balance of the fund balance?
Yes.
It's about 3.3 million.
Okay. So when we talk about it, if that whole $700,000 were to be needed, there still would be about $2.5, $2.6 million in the fund balance.
Yes, and there's actually a slide, 1 or 2 after this, which talks about the status of fund balance and where we think we're gonna end up.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
So just the calculation, am I going the right way? Alright, so proposed operating budget will be 9 million, total 7,634,000, less revenue other sources, 1.4 million. So less budgetary or budgeted use of fund balance at 750,000, and 200,000, which is Sunday school contribution, will be 6,000 or 6,728,000. So,
So this just shows, talks about the refund, the prior one, and talked about the refund from 2 years ago,
right,
when those schools were due for a decrease, but they did not get a decrease, they paid the same amount they had paid the year before.
Right, and so since Quakertown has the 50%, but you're capping them, obviously,